Hi, I'm Mary Wing Soares, and this is Transparency in Government. Today with me is Scott LaLiberty, our Superintendent of Schools. Thank you for being here again.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. We just went through our election cycle.
We did.
And we had some very good results for the school district.
We were very, very grateful that, once again, the town of Londonderry has been supportive of our schools and our efforts to enhance the learning of our children. Very grateful that the town did pass the proposed budget.
And soundly, they passed it soundly. It wasn't like it was,
so, yeah.
Just a couple of hundred votes. It was almost over 500 votes, I think, more than in opposition. So I think that says a lot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, it's one of the things I think that we all appreciate so much about working here, is that people do hold us to a high standard, but they also are very supportive of what we do.
Right.
And I don't think you could ask for a whole lot more.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And how exciting are we to be able to go to the games on Friday night and not be worried that we're going to be collapsing?
There'll be a lot less concern, especially when I walk up. I know as a larger person, there were some nervous moments, but also, very grateful that we'll have a lot of different events that will be able to be held at the field. That work should take place this summer. We'll be ready to go by the time students come back in the fall.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
And then if there's any money left over in our budget, it goes to the Expendable Maintenance Trust?
Maintenance Trust, yeah. A fund balance by virtue of the positive vote from the voters. Any kind of unexpended fund balance that we have initially in the fall, at the end of next cycle, will go into the Maintenance Trust, which is used primarily to offset those intermediate level projects that prolong the life of the building and avoid a larger capital expenditure down the road.
So it might be just quick fixes, that type of thing?
Could be quick fixes, could be things like carpet upgrades, could be that sort of thing, painting, anything of that nature. Maintenance, that's really what it is. I think we've got some doors on this year. We've got some door replacement. So those things that you don't normally think of, but when you have 4,340 little people coming in and out all day, and little and big people, and such traffic in the evenings, as you know, we average 180 to 200 events at night. So.
Is there going to be security upgrades as well because of I know, with the tragedy that happened in Parkland, it's brought to everybody's attention again. And
Right. We do constantly look to upgrade the equipment that we have as far as things, as you know, a couple of years ago, there was a bond article that was passed where we installed the entryways, security vestibules, but we also have camera systems. We have a lot of other systems in place, limiting access. We always look to upgrade that. A lot of the work that we're doing right now as a result of what we've learned from some of these horrible incidents has been focused more on the procedures and the things that we do in our reaction to certain events and in preventing them, obviously, as well.
Well, some of the scarier things that I've seen proposed, not by Londonderry, but by other school districts, is doing what-if scenarios where you have shooters coming into the buildings and pretending to shoot at kids and how they should react. You don't ever expect that would be something we would do in Londonderry?
No, I mean, I think it's appropriate to drill scenarios around a table. No, not anywhere near students like that or anything like that. We would go through scenarios with the people, in our leadership team and in our incident command system. But I think involving students in something like that wouldn't be appropriate.
Well, I know over Christmas break, the high school was used as an emergency training center. Correct?
It is from time to time.
Yeah. And so some scenarios were put into place and the police were reacting to those scenarios. Right. And so that is very appropriate when there aren't children around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we welcome them into our buildings. We want them even just to know the layouts of the buildings and that sort of thing. A very, very positive relationship, as you know, with Londonderry PD.
Well, and it's wonderful having school resource officers in the schools.
It is. That's a partnership that goes back a number of years. It was based on a concept in law enforcement called community policing, where an outreach was made for officers to develop better relationships in the positive light with different people in the community. And so if memory serves me correctly, it goes back probably 20 years.
Right.
And that has certainly evolved. We're very fortunate. We have 3 school resource officers in our district, and have a very good relationship, well trained as far as working with young people.
So do we have someone full-time at the high school and full-time at the middle school?
We
And
do.
then the
Yeah.
3 elementary schools share someone?
And we do, and they work as a team, so if they're needed in different places, they can redeploy. But yeah, we do, that's how they are deployed in the district.
Okay. I know that, that the school resource officer that's at the middle school is an amazing woman. She's made some really nice connections with the students, and
Right.
that makes all the difference in the world when it
Yeah.
when it comes to different situations.
It is, a lot of people will ask, why do you have to have an officer or officers in that situation? And that's, a lot of times that's what they don't necessarily consider, is that they are creating relationships with a significant percentage of the population of our town. I know in my past as former elementary school principal, our school resource officer was oftentimes able to respond to some very challenging situations in people's homes where there were children present.
Right.
And the children knew the officer because of a relationship that they had developed in school. So that's an example of how sometimes community policing can play out and have a role in the larger.
Right. It makes
larger
it less
town.
frightening for the child
Yeah.
too.
Yep,
Yeah,
for sure.
If a police officer has to come to your home.
Familiar person.
Right. Right. So we had yet another, two snow days. Count them.
I thought we were going there.
So
yeah,
since
did.
our last visit with each other,
Yes.
and I know the teachers are all talking about adding time to the school day, and I think across the board people are saying, let's get it done, because I look at it, if I get July off, I'm a happy camper. But when you start, we're already at the 26th, I think, for the teachers at this point.
Monday the 25th is the last day of school for teachers now, and Friday the 22nd for students. Yeah.
As long as tomorrow is not, or Thursday, isn't a problem.
I'm being told we're going to be okay, but
yeah, fingers
we'll be up
absolutely.
We'll be up at 4 a.m. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, tomorrow I don't think we're going to have a problem. It's not even supposed to come until
Thursday,
the
yeah.
afternoon, but Thursday. Yeah, Thursday.
Yep, we'll be up.
Right. So is it something you would consider, though, allowing us to change the schedules, like even in April, after April break or something like that, and make up some time that way?
Well, one of the things that we're going to be doing, I know that this airs later, but in the board meeting that we have tonight, I do have an overview for the board, first and foremost, of the laws that govern as you know, in New Hampshire, we don't necessarily count days, we count hours over a recommended number of days. There was some misinformation that got out for one of our neighboring towns that they had a waiver. And actually, at this point, a waiver is not necessary so long as you meet minimum number of hours.
Sure.
So as you're talking about, would we alter our schedule? One of the things that we'll be talking a little bit about with the board is under our current schedule, under the current number of hours that we have, we do have some flexibility. But a lot of that, it's important to point out, a lot of that does have, it needs to be discussed, and a decision needs to come from the board.
Oh, absolutely.
As they take a look at that, because you really, there are a lot of peripheral factors that come into play when you're talking about altering the end of the school year. What I'll do is I'll spell that out for the board and explain the different options that would be at their disposal.
Sure.
And as far as would I support it, I think if we could put something together in such a way that we could maintain the integrity of what we're trying to do academically, then I would support that.
Sure.
If you got into, for example, as we're talking, the last day for students on a Friday, if we were to have to move that to Monday and it was a half a day of school, normally our last day is a half day of school, that we'd have to take a close look at that.
Sure.
Because we may not even meet our minimum number for attendance figures.
Exactly.
If there's a lot of parents might choose not to send their children to school.
Right.
So a lot of different factors like that we'd have to play out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you know, your teachers might not want to come on that Monday either. No way we could back it up 2 days, huh?
Yeah, that's a tougher call.
Yeah.
That's a tougher call.
Well, one of the things that, you know, the fact that all of our teachers don't live in Londonderry,
Right,
and they
right.
have children, and their
Yeah.
children are going to get out a week or even 10 days before Londonderry schools get
In
out.
some cases, yeah.
Yeah. It just presents many challenges.
It's
Not,
very
but it's not
complicated.
even just for teachers, it's also for parents as well. Their camps don't start until, you know, that final last day, and so,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, we do, I mean, that's part of the reason we do spell out, and I know
Right.
we'll hear this evening as well, that we do spill out those 10 days.
Yep.
And we do make that promise to parents that it won't go past what would be the
Right.
Wednesday after,
Right.
which would be the 27th. We know it won't go later than that. I know that doesn't always help when it comes to camps and vacations and things
Right,
like
but
that.
I
yeah,
you know,
certainly understand that.
personally, I always have that in my head. The 27th is, well, for me, it's the 28th will be the last day
Right.
I will be coming to school.
Right.
But, you know, again, when you have other districts that are letting their children, not even letting their children out, they're meeting their requirements
Right.
because of the number of hours that they're
Right.
going to school.
Yeah.
Or they've utilized blizzard bags or some form of blizzard, you know,
Yeah.
situation. I know one of the teachers whose child is in another district, the elementary schools all have 5 packets that they get at open house. And those packets are Blizzard Day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The middle school and the elementary schools all they're through Aspen, which is what we use. And they, the Blizzard Day, the assignment is there in Aspen, and they
Right.
work on it, and the teacher's available to talk to them. Granted, you have to have power and you have to
Right.
have connectivity. So there's two caveats, but if you have, what is the minimum number of students that have to come to school in order for it to be a real day? If you have that number of students that have computer access,
Right.
you're done.
I think, yeah, if that becomes, if we ever got to that situation where the desire becomes to check the days off, I think there are ways you can go about that. In the state regulations, it does say minimum participation is 80%. So what that means is, we'll just take that example, for those districts that have blizzard bags and have those packets at home, the teachers have to evaluate every
Sure.
one of those packets and have to ensure that 80% of students have completed
Right.
those packets,
Right.
or the day doesn't count.
Right.
A lot of pieces like that you need to take into account. Also, what's in the packet,
Right.
right? So that's
and-
one of the things. I never like to rule out a creative
Sure.
idea, but I will tell you, we want to make sure that we don't sacrifice the quality of students' learning just to check a day off the
And I
calendar.
agree with you.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, at the middle school and the high school levels, I think at the elementary school levels, we're working on, you know, learning and process and product and that type of thing. We're learning math skills and reading skills and all of those types of things, which lend themselves to a kind of a packet sort of thing. In the middle school and the
Okay.
elementary school and the high school, I mean, you're doing more project-based and
Yep.
you know, self-paced learning. So all of those things flow right into the day. We don't miss the work just because the child isn't in school.
Right.
They still have that opportunity to work on whatever project they happen to be doing, or whatever,
Yeah,
you know,
good.
whatever their
Yep.
whatever their paper happens to be, or whatever. So
Good.
I
Yep.
know it's all going to be a conversation that we're going to have, because you know, this New England is not going to change its weather patterns, and it's frustrating because it's so late in the year. You know, we expect this December,
Right.
January, or even February, and this all happened in March.
Right.
So that makes it even more frustrating for many people.
Yeah, it does, and that's, you know, one of the things that people also need to understand is that a decision such as a blizzard bag or any kind of remote instruction that we were to try to use, we would have to plan a year ahead.
Sure.
So that wouldn't be on the table for us this
No,
year, even on a
no,
best case
I know,
scenario.
but
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
you know, wanting to make sure that that conversation continues to
Sure.
happen.
Yeah.
Across the district, I'm sure if you
Mm-hmm.
ask parents, they would probably have the same.
Oh, I've talked to a lot of parents, yeah,
Right.
and they'd love to have some creative solutions.
Right.
And I say to them, we do too. We
Right.
just want to make sure that they're meaningful.
Right.
We don't want to sacrifice those days.
We absolutely don't want
Yeah.
to sacrifice the integrity of the school district
Right.
because we have a quality product and we want to keep it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, I'll be at a meeting on Friday at the State Department of Education. All the superintendents in the state gather. And we are going to be talking about that. That'll be on the agenda. We'll be
Right.
talking about end of year calendars and who's going to do what with
Right.
with the end of the
Right.
year and that sort of thing. So
One of
more to
the
come on that.
yeah,
We'll
one of the
learn
topics
more.
that's been coming up at the middle school level anyway is to have a no technology week the last week of school. And that will be a huge challenge because how many movies get shown, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but it might be a lot of fun.
Would have
too.
to be some plays or something. Yeah.
That's right.
There you go.
Right. I think we could do that. I think we could accomplish that. I wanted to talk also about, and it went right out of my head because we were talking so much about blizzard bags. Let me think. Come on, Phil, what do you got?
I'm supposed to fill in. Probably the worst.
Well, tonight we
guest
have
ever.
reorganization of the school board.
We could talk about that.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
a new school board member.
We do. We're welcoming Michael Saucier to the board. Very strong showing in the election. I know for you, I'm sure you felt the same way to see 6 people really step up
Right.
and express interest.
was
in the
wonderful.
board. That was fantastic.
Yeah. I hope they continue to come forward.
I do too.
We
yeah.
have 2, I think, next year and then 1 the following year. So,
Yep.
There's seats available. And
Yeah, people really showing that willingness to become involved and make a difference and reach out in their community.
right.
It was heartwarming. Michael did a fantastic job. I saw him out there. I know when I was at the polls for a while, and I went over to vote myself. He was out there in the snow.
I know, God love him.
He worked hard at it. So certainly look forward to working with him.
Right.
And of course, Mr. Young was reelected as well. Really brings a neat perspective of the history of the town.
Right.
And has served the town in a lot of different roles over a number of years, and brings us a valuable perspective.
Yeah,
to
it's good to have the
discussion.
anchor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. So there's that, and tomorrow night tomorrow afternoon is C3, and I know this will probably air after that, but that's all talking about technology
Yes.
and what
Yep.
what our future might look like. I
Right.
know that there has been a group of people working towards creating this presentation, and I'm sure the presentation will be available on the website after.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. Doing a lot of work right now looking out. One of the things that we've talked a lot about is really wanting to change the perspective within the district, but also in the larger context of how we use technology. I think for a long time, our profession, and really, more than just our profession, you can go to Best Buy and experience this. People tend to focus on a device
Right.
and say, how can I use this? We feel like we've evolved to a point now where there are a variety of different devices and different tools that can be used to answer different challenges.
Sure.
So what we're really trying to do, and I'm trying to challenge our leadership team to do, is to think about an instructional problem or think about a management or logistical problem and take a look at it and say, okay, what piece of technology can I
Right.
use to solve this? Which sounds really simple, but it's a little harder than you think.
No,
because
there's a
we-
great book out there called Tasks Before Acts.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's what it is. You need to know why you want to use this
Exactly.
before you
Yeah.
go out and use it.
I always use it with with our leadership team. One of my favorite kind of analogies is sort of like when you get if you get a new hammer for Father's Day, you have to walk around your house looking for
Where are
something.
those nails?
I got to nail something in. I just got a new hammer.
Right.
Right. And I think sometimes we come at technology like that
Right.
too. I got this
Right.
cool new thing, and we're fortunate. We're very well supported by our community. We have a lot of tools. So a little bit of what you will hear about are some different ways that we think we might be able to use, some instructional problems that we might be able to solve using different pieces of technology.
And then at the whole other end of the spectrum was the district sponsored a film the other night called Screenagers.
Screenagers, yeah. Yep.
And that was something that was trying to get parents and
Right.
even kids to realize how much time they're spending on the screens, whether it's their devices or their computers or their televisions, and it's not a new problem because
Right.
it's just one thing's been replaced by another thing.
Mhm.
So,
It's, I mean, it kind of goes to the idea of all things in balance.
mhm.
You know, and that's, I'm betraying my age, but I definitely grew up in a generation where computers weren't a factor.
Right,
But we may have been a little more comfortable outside
Sure.
and running around, that kind of thing. And I think that lent a sense of balance,
Yeah.
really. That's we need to make sure that we keep in our lives. I mean, technology can do a lot of great things for
Sure.
you, but yeah, I think all things in balance.
Right.
When you have that kind of a culture.
Well, you know, I do believe that this school district does a nice job keeping everything in balance. We have a wonderful sports
Mhm.
program. We have many, many clubs.
Definitely.
We have an amazing music program.
Mhm.
We have a theater department, you know, that is producing wonderful plays every single
Excellent.
year. So we have all of these other diverse things beyond the technology, although, you know, the technology is, of course, very important because it's something that they're going to be dealing with for the rest of their lives.
Mhm.
So it's not
Yeah.
something to ignore.
For sure.
Yeah,
For sure. In balance, right?
right,
Yep.
in balance.
Yeah.
Anything else you think our viewers should hear about today?
You know, there's a lot coming up in the spring as we come into. We hope we come into nicer weather, but we do. There's so many different things going on. We have plays at the elementary school,
Mhm.
middle school coming up. You know, certainly the high school, the springs, you know, the sports and spring concerts coming
Right.
up. There's so much going on. I would just encourage people to really try to get out and get to as many of those different events as you possibly can. I know I try to do that as well. A little
Mhm.
tough to spread yourself thin
It
sometimes.
is.
And I know there's parents who have 3, 4, 5 children in our district.
Right.
I'm not sure how they do it.
I know either.
But it certainly would encourage people to get out and
Right.
join us and stay involved and enjoy some of the elements of the district
All right.
that they've been so kind enough to support.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
And so I'll see you later.
Yes, ma'am.
So Scott, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks
This
for
has
having
been
me.
Mary Wing Soares, and this is Transparency in Government.